I think Jen has another meeting at 7, so it looks like she's in the car when her picture was there. I think Jen has another meeting at 7, so it looks like she was in the car when her picture popped up.
Yes, she is in the car.
I'm not sure.
Everybody outside?
Well, Tim did.
Right.
I don't think he's coming. We can just, get him inside.
Thank you.
It's almost 6. What's going on here?
You hope. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
No, I All right, why don't we start? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice is required under the Open Public Meetings Act was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star, and the new Co-Star on December the 16th of 2021. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the Borough office and that a copy has been filed with the Borough Clerk. Mr. Bennell?
Here.
Mr. Gubatose?
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith absent? Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here. Just a quick announcement on Council President Sexsmith and our business administrator. Council President Sexsmith developed
Developed a kind of a strong case of COVID. It's the middle of the weekend, and he's pretty much out of commission. And won't be attending. Hopefully, we wish him well and hope that he heals up soon. And Business Administrator Humphreys, I don't know if she'll be in or not. She had to get she had some pain today, so she's in the ER trying to get that resolved. So we're missing a couple of people, but we'll proceed. We have a couple of interesting things tonight. First, we have a workshop topic scheduled on the COA development fee of the fee ordinance. Certainly an important step in our journey on getting into compliance with our fair share housing arena. We have 3 presentations, a short proclamation for Captain Zula, who's officially retired. I think here the date has now come. That should only take a few minutes. We do have the 2021 Planning Board recommendations. Christine Bell is now back and will be there she is back in summarizing. And then I asked Christine to do a little bit of an analysis on the 5,000 square foot to 7,500 square foot lots, her being our planner for these areas. We do have one ordinance introduction, which I think should be pretty routine. It's around extending brush pickup through December. We don't have any adoptions for tonight. With that, I'll just do a very quick intro on our COA. It'll take a few minutes. So Ron Cucciara, Ron's up there in the top left. He'll be primarily presenting kind of a status report along with Jennifer Bean, who has been working on this with Ron for the last almost 2 years. They've been working with our administration and trying to formalize and operationalize our affordable housing plan. They're going to provide a status tonight. We have made some progress. I don't want to use the word slow, but I'll use the word deliberate, and it's for some reasons that I'm sure they'll go into. The last time we met on this, Ron, I'll just call Ron and not go through the last name, Ron, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Provided a briefing for us that we were granted a request for temporary immunity. And Jen had provided a draft housing element fair share plan report detailing vacant land adjustments to the fair share housing center per the court directive. We also were assigned a special master by the court. That's Mary Beth Lonergan. Earlier this year, Rachel Locken from the Fair Share Housing Committee, along with Jen and Ron, met to draft the consent order and ordinance. We got to go ahead to introduce that ordinance, and we sent it over to Fair Share Housing and Ms. Lonergan to provide us comments. That's happened. Additionally, various documents, including draft housing element, fair share plan, vacant land adjustment, consent orders, and draft affordable housing trust funds, along with supporting mapping and aerial photography, have been provided. I think I'm squared away on the next steps from what Ron sent a few weeks ago, but I'm going to be quiet at this point, and I'll let Ron and Jen kind of take it over from this point. Is that good, Ron? You ready to go?
Yes, thank you. That was an excellent recap, but I want to focus in on some of the action items that we have and what we need to do moving forward. So one of the first things that Jen and I endeavored to do in the process was, one, get the order of immunity so that there was no chance that a builder's remedy would be filed against the municipality. And as stated, that was achieved. So the town right now has what we call an order of immunity, which protects it. So secondly, what we did was draft an ordinance that allowed the town to collect affordable housing fees. There are state statutes which require the payment of certain affordable housing fees. Whether a municipality has an ordinance or does not have an ordinance, those fees are payable. It's just a matter of whether they go to the benefit of the municipality or they're paid directly to the state. So in order to prevent the town from losing money to the state, we drafted an affordable housing ordinance under the directives of the municipal land use law, where those rules are contained. Now, in our particular case, if you remember my last briefing, the state agency that was created to supervise affordable housing, the Council on Affordable Housing, does not function and has not functioned in quite some time. And the New Jersey Supreme Court has stated that jurisdiction over fair housing has reverted, therefore, to the courts. So pursuant to the directive of the Supreme Court, Bradley Beach has filed a declaratory judgment action, which has allowed us to engage in these activities. So we drafted the fee ordinance, and again, the fee ordinance allows the municipality to directly collect affordable housing funds. The Fair Share Housing Center, which is a nonprofit affordable housing advocacy group, is a part of the process. The Supreme Court requires that the town provide them with everything that we're doing. So they had some comments. As was stated, the special master has some comments. We responded with a few of our own and came to a final document which was acceptable and which the court has now provided its blessing for. It is accepted through an order, consent order, that ordinance. So the town now is free to adopt that ordinance, and it has been pre-approved by the court. And again, what happens now is when you have development projects which are required by statute to pay affordable housing fees, those fees will go into a segregated account that the town has for affordable housing purposes. It allows us to establish what they call an affordable housing trust fund. Prior to this, any monies that were collectible were only collectible by the state. So the town now gets those monies directly. As stated, Jennifer has put together an affordable housing plan. It's the fair share plan. It's within the housing element of the master plan. That has been submitted and has been commented upon now by Fair Share Housing Center. Jen and I have had conferences with the special master. The parties are all very close on what they believe the constitutional requirement for the town is. We're working on refining the vacant land adjustment. And, for members of the governing body and the public, a vacant land adjustment is an analysis of a municipality, and it basically identifies, the development potential for the municipality. And in a place like Bradley Beach, frankly, there's not any real virgin land left that like some other municipalities in Monmouth County. So we identify the limited availability of new sites, and we use that in order to bring down the number that the court may assign to the town as its obligation for affordable housing. And it's been very amicable so far with Fair Share Housing Center. Jennifer and I had a conference with the special master in September to go over any specific pieces of information that she wanted to see, and she did give us some. Mary Beth Lonergan, however, then went on vacation and has not been available basically from mid-September, and that'll go through the end of October. And certainly, she's entitled to vacation, but that is sort of the schedule that we've been put on. So Jen, if you could speak a little bit to the particulars of the refinement of the vacant land adjustment and other pieces of information that we're putting together for the special master.
So we did an initial evaluation of the developable land within the municipality and came out with an RDP, or realistic development potential, of 4. That was submitted to Mary Beth as well as Fair Share Housing Center for their review and comment. Ron and I got back a number of other properties that they wanted us to evaluate and determine whether or not, maybe there were some redevelopment opportunities, and I used redevelopment, like little R redevelopment opportunities, that would drive the RDP up. We did look, my office looked at those properties, none of which were available for additional RDP. One was like a brand new bank, one was an existing gym. So I'm not sure what they were looking at when they put those properties together. We created a response, sent that back, and I think that's kind of where we are right now. I think we're very close, as Ron has indicated. I think we're really close with Mary Beth. I think that maybe there's going to be a little bit more negotiation with Fair Share Housing Center on including other properties. Maybe yes, no, we'll have to see what she says. And then once we come to an agreement on the number, then it's going to be incumbent upon us as a borough to provide a plan to affirmatively create however many units, whether it's 4, 6, whatever it is. And that plan will go into our housing element and fair share plan, as well as a settlement agreement that we would have with Fair Share Housing Center, both of which would have to be approved by the court. So we're kind of in a holding pattern until Mary Beth comes back to kind of, I think all the information has been distributed to all the parties, and it's just a matter of having a conference with all of us at the same time to just finalize it. And once we have that done, then, and I think, Ron, also your office has been evaluating the ordinances, right?
Yeah. So the borough has an existing affordable housing ordinance. We have discussed that ordinance with the special master and have received some comments on it. We are taking the ordinance and we're in the process of revising it to encompass all of the most recent Supreme Court decisions and be, the most current with regard to the Fair Housing Act and other statutes. So that's underway as well, and that would be part of the settlement agreement that we would reach with Fair Share Housing Center, and something that would be approved by the special master and ultimately the court.
Okay.
So in
Thank
terms of action items, the borough can, you can immediately at your next available meeting introduce the fee ordinance. There is nothing stopping us from approving that, and again, that enables the town to keep the money itself that is required to be collected. And then, we'll move forward the process that Jen and I laid out, as soon as Mary Beth Lonergan returns. But we will have a revised affordable housing ordinance to circulate and get comments on at that time. And I think that once Mary Beth returns, my anticipation is that this entire process is going to move much more rapidly. We've talked to the judge. The judge understands the goodwill that the borough is exercising and moving forward, of its own will, not because it's being pressured by developers. And it's been appreciated that is what the borough is doing. But we've also stated that we have a desire to, bring it to conclusion, which she does as well. So I think that once the special master gets back, now that we've sort of gotten over that first hurdle, or the first several hurdles, the most recent being the fee ordinance, and with the additional information that we've submitted, I think we're going to be in a position to bring this to a close rapidly, especially considering also that unlike other towns, there's not a such a great disparity in numbers between what we've come up with and what Fair Share Housing has come up with. I can tell you my experience in other municipalities, you can be hundreds of units apart. Here, it's a minimal fraction of that. So I'm very optimistic that it can proceed in a very expedited manner.
Okay, anything else, Jen, from you?
No, I think that's it. We're really just kind of waiting for Mary Beth to get back.
Okay, so to recap, we will bring that fee ordinance hopefully in the next meeting. And then you're gonna work, when is it Jennifer? No, not Jennifer, it's what's her name?
Mary
Flanagan.
Beth.
Mary Beth, thank you. Flanagan comes back, you'll get that, ordinance squared away, and then we'll bring that forward after that.
Yes.
There
Right,
will be other zoning, Mary, if I could just add one more thing. So in adjusting the number down to whatever it ultimately winds up being, that's what our realistic development potential is, and we have to build those units. There still will be an unmet need.
Right.
And Fair Share will require that we provide some overlay zoning to try to capture that. I anticipate pushing on that to run along Main Street, which we have currently some of it, and then a mandatory set aside ordinance if a development generates 5 or more units, a certain percentage, 20% would be affordable. But those are other ordinances that we would be required to implement as well when we get there.
Okay. All right, it's important that we get all of these squared away so that we don't have anything hanging out there at the end. Okay. I'd open it up now to any of the council. Have any questions for Ron or Jen? Okay. Any other questions? Yep. Open up to the, yep, yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 603rd Avenue, Pachero, and this being was a very nice presentation. I just wish it took place 2 years ago. But I did have a question about this fee ordinance is merely a fee ordinance. As you said, it being, this will not get us actual units until we do an additional ordinance.
Well,
So,
go ahead, Jen.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, you can go ahead, Jen. All right, well, the fee ordinance, yes, the fee ordinance doesn't create units. It's, as the name indicates, it's a fee ordinance. The municipal land use law was amended several years ago to require the payment of affordable housing fees in non-residential projects as just a requirement. But it allowed municipalities to keep that money if they had a fee ordinance, and you only had a fee ordinance if the court or COA approved it, and you only had that if you were voluntarily participating in the process. So we were losing those opportunities in the past, and now we will be able to capture them. Now, the money that's collected, a portion of the money can go towards what they call soft costs, which are, fees for professionals, who are planning for affordable housing and things like that. But a certain amount of the fees have to be used for actual affordable housing purposes, and it could be for rehabilitation, things like that. But all of that is going to be something that is approved by the court, because we, as part of what we're doing with the Fair Share plan, you have to have what's called a spending plan, and that will assign what proportions of the monies are going to go where. But a portion of that money has to go towards actual affordable housing.
Sure. So
I also think
go ahead. Sorry.
I think what you were referring to was also ordinances that will address unmet need, which is in addition to the development fee ordinance. And we're going to have to figure out what Fair Share will accept in the terms of zoning to capture that unmet need.
Sure. And so that ordinance for units, whether it be the 1.5 set aside or the 2 points set aside, would be done as a separate ordinance.
Yes.
I mean, we've got,
Yeah.
my questioning is because we got no units at 301 Main, we got no units at the John Naples project at Auto Tech, and based on my calculations, we should already have 7 units from just those 2 projects.
Well, Jennifer and I have been looking at that actually, and you still had an affordable housing ordinance on the books when those approvals were granted, and those approvals are subject to all of the municipalities' ordinances, which include that ordinance. We can go more in depth in that, but it would involve discussions of things that may involve litigation. I'd be more comfortable in executive discussing it. But those 2 that you named, Jennifer and I have specifically targeted, and I'm evaluating right now how to get actual units or at least a financial contribution out of them.
And Mr. Cuchero, to your other point about us not having the fee ordinance, does that mean the fees from 301 Main Street went to the state and not to the town?
I don't know that they have been collected. If they have been collected, they would have gone to the state. We have to see whether they've been collected. If they have not been collected, we're going to keep them here.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Ron, thank you, and Jen, thank you for the update. We'll just keep in touch here, and it sounds like we got some good activity, and hopefully we can wrap this up early next year.
Yep. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody. That's an important, this has been a very long road, but hopefully we're gonna get to the end of it here early next year. Okay, we'll move to presentations and bids. There are no bids, so we have one presentation, well, actually 3 presentations, but one in absentia. That's for a proclamation honoring Police Captain Charles Zula. He's not with us tonight, but it's a fairly brief proclamation. I will read it. Whereas Charles Zula is retiring from the Bradley Beach Police Department and is being awarded this recognition as a testimonial of loyal and dedicated service for the past 28 years in law enforcement. And whereas Charles Zula's dedicated interest and devotion to duty has had a valuable effect on the efficiency and morale of his coworkers and the community throughout the years. And whereas he will be missed both professionally and as a friend, and we extend our sincere appreciation for his service. Now therefore be it resolved on behalf of the mayor and council and employees of the Borough of Bradley Beach, we wish to express sincere thanks to Captain Charles Zula for his distinguished and professional service to the Bradley Beach Police Department, and highly commend him for the manner in which he has carried out his duties, and to extend him best wishes for his continued success and happiness in all his future endeavors. That is the proclamation. Maybe we can give Captain Zula a round of applause. Okay, we'll now move to the other 2 presentations. Appreciate Christine putting these together. She had just come back from a trip, but Christine Bell, sitting here in front of us, is our borough planner. She worked with the subcommittee in 2021 and made recommendations to the planning board, the then planning board, which has been dissolved since then and merged into a land use board. She subsequently made recommendations to the planning board in late October, and then a final recommendation in December 9th of 2021, was unanimously adopted by the planning board. At the last council meeting, we did look at an ordinance change, but really didn't touch on any of these items or some of the items in the recommendation. So Christine's going to spend 15 minutes or so just summarizing that for us. Why don't we just stop there and we'll get to the other topic after that.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Christine.
Right, so in 2021, the Strategic Planning Committee created a economic development plan as one of their recommendations for, improving Bradley Beach. The plan was created in collaboration with the planning committee and was intended to guide the borough's economic response to COVID, climate change, and improve the overall long-term economic outlook for Bradley Beach. And the economic plan element is one of the optional plan elements of the master plan underneath the municipal land use law. So our economic development plan element was prepared in accordance with those requirements. Because this is an element of the master plan, the strategic planning committee really had ownership of this document, but then it went to the planning board, which is now the land use board, and the planning board ultimately adopts it and has ownership of it as a portion, as an element of the master plan. So the economic development plan that we created included an inventory of the current economic situation in Monmouth County and in Bradley Beach, In Bradley Beach specifically, we looked at zoning permitting non-residential uses. We identified growth industries in Bradley Beach, including tourism, medical/wellness, and craft entrepreneurship. We looked at the characteristics of the labor pool in Bradley Beach. And then we developed some economic strategies to achieve a diverse economy. Many of the goals and objectives that we had as those strategies were informed by the existing planning documents and master plan elements Bradley Beach has. We had a number of recommendations, including 8 recommendations to revise the borough zoning ordinance. And obviously, while the master plan is under the purview of the planning board, any ordinance revisions, updates, introductions are owned by the council. So I think that's really why we're here today. The 8 recommendations that were ultimately approved by the planning board to revise the zoning ordinances included reducing the number of non-residential zones from 4 zones to 2 by incorporating the general business zone standards on the entire east side of Main Street and the general business west zone on the entire west side of Main Street. This would create continuity of development in the downtown corridor and create a reasonable standard of development. The second recommendation was to set a density standard for the GB and GBW zones based on the square footage of the lot, giving the public a better understanding of the possible density and bulk that can be expected upon new development. Number 3 was to create definitions and regulations for short-term rentals and bed and breakfast. Number 4 was that all corner lot development on Main Street should have ingress and egress on the side streets to promote safer traffic flow and preserve parking opportunities on Main Street. Number 5 was in the GBW zone, the 4th floor should be set back 10 to 15 feet to maintain a 3-story look from both sides of Main Street. 6 was permit co-working spaces within all non-residential zones. 7 was permit craft production uses within all non-residential zones to be defined as a commercial use that involves the production of arts, crafts, foods, beverages, or other products with on-site production and assembly of goods primarily involving the use of hand tools and or small scale equipment. Craft production establishments are compatible and are often co-located with retail sales and service uses. This use category includes, but is not limited to, coffee roasting and alcoholic beverage production. Establishments engaged in the craft production of alcoholic beverages, including craft wineries, craft breweries, and craft distilleries, shall be limited to no more than 10,000 barrels of 31 fluid gallons of product each year for brew pubs, 20,000 gallons for craft distilleries, and 300,000 barrels of 31 fluid gallons for microbreweries. And we didn't just make those numbers up. Those are like the New Jersey state standards for basically the smallest type of those businesses. And kind of just to elaborate on that definition a little bit more, because I know it's a lot of words there. Both the planning board and the strategic planning committee felt that they really wanted to promote some of the newer businesses and businesses of that type along Main Street, like the brewery and the new bakery, and they thought that this was a good way to encourage those types of businesses going forward. And then the 8th recommendation was to define wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. So those were the 8 zoning recommendations.
Okay. Thanks, Christine. Any questions by the council? Yep.
So Christine, thank you very much for joining us tonight and taking us through this. I was on the planning board back at that time. I was with the strategic task force, so I got the opportunity to work with you. And I was concerned that in the course of all the other things going on in the borough, that some of this reputation might have been lost. So I'm really happy. It's taken us almost a year to come back, but I'm really happy that the borough is getting a chance to hear these. Even as you read them back to me, brings back not only good memories, but it just reinforces what I remember, which was, we had really good ideas that came out of that. I can only think of one that actually might be challenged by some of the contractors we talked to, and that was the 10-foot setback. I was talking to the gentleman who built 301, and he did say that that is a fairly significant setback. It takes a lot of obviously space for the construction. But that said, I thought all of these were wonderful recommendations, and as you mentioned earlier, I think it's really important that the council takes action. Maybe I know our VA is not here tonight, but this should be the type of thing that is shared with our engineers. And I'd like to think that draft ordinances could be presented to the council.
Yeah, that would be the next step. Yeah.
Yes. Your planner can also do that.
Right.
So what was the sixth recommendation?
To permit co-working spaces within all non-residential zones. So that would be like WeWork, I think, not a WeWork, right? We don't want a documentary about Bradley Beach. But that type of, space where people that maybe are working from home, don't want to be home alone all day, they can go to a space and work alone with other people.
Any other questions by council? No. Comment? Yeah.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. Ms. Bell, the number one item was the continuous GD and GDW zones on Main Street.
Yeah.
If I apply that to Ms. Beam's comments from a couple minutes ago, could that change be utilized to create the overlay for the affordable housing zone?
I think it would certainly clean up it would make the overlay cleaner, but that would probably be a separate ordinance, just the way the affordable housing process works. We could certainly be proactive and work with Ms. Beam to, require, an affordable housing set aside in the GB and GBW zones if we are changing the zoning, but typically that's just a separate ordinance, just the way the whole housing process works.
Sure, to appease the courts.
Yes.
Say, listen, we've expanded the opportunity here for more affordable housing opportunities by changing these two zones, getting rid of the OP, getting rid of the BOR. So those zones had a lower standard. So now we've created a higher standard so we can create affordable housing, but then again, we've created the density limitation, which we don't have right now, which is very important.
Well, we haven't created any of the ordinances yet, but those are certainly things, the council, if they, direct us to write these ordinances, can certainly say, maybe we don't want, to put, maybe that if there's residential, the density standard would be different than if there's affordable housing, the density standard might be higher than if it's just, 1 or 2 units of non-affordable.
I would disagree with that. I would say that the standard is the standard, whether it's affordable or not, but that's just me. And I just wanted to clarify, you referenced the strategic plan that was done by the strategic planning committee. And they recommended the removal of the hotels and motels, but then is it true that the planning board added it back in?
So the strategic planning committee had a recommendation in their draft plan element to remove hotels and motels as a permitted use. But ultimately, master plan elements are owned by the planning board. So the planning board was basically like, thank you, strategic planning committee, for providing this wonderful plan for us, but we'd like to do a few things differently. And that wasn't the only thing that was removed or changed. As I recall, the definition of craft production was really meshed out at the planning board also.
But they changed it, and they have the right to, they own it, correct?
Right.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, thank you, Christine. Okay, I asked Christine, because she was not available at the last meeting, just to give us a short summary of her thoughts on a workshop item that came up, looking at going from 5,000 to 7,500 square feet on secondary facilities and secondary building.
Garage apartment.
Accessory, well, accessories.
Accessory dwellings, yeah.
Accessories, yeah.
Right, and I did look at the information provided by the tax assessor, and then the fact sheet, I forget whether it was put together by Councilman Weber. And I will apologize, I didn't have the time this week to do as thorough a deep dive into this as I could have, but I found the fact sheet very helpful. Based on the number of structures in the residential properties in Bradley Beach, right now, 25% of all of them have accessory dwellings. Of those, 48% of lots that are greater than 75,000 square feet have multiple structures. 7,500, sorry, 7,500 square feet have multiple structures. Of the lots less than 7,500 square feet, it's only around 18.5% currently existing. Obviously, the larger the lot size is, the greater number of lots have accessory structures. Right now, the lots between 6,000 to 7,500 square feet, which are the lots that would really be affected the most by this. Approximately 40 of them have multiple structures on them right now. So if the council was to determine that lots less than 7,500 square feet could not have garage apartments, that would impact about 18.5% of those existing properties, and that would make the garage apartments non-conforming. I do understand the concerns about density and light, air, and open space. I have been to properties in Bradley Beach where they were worried their neighbor was going to build a garage apartment and then it would completely cut off all access to the sun in their backyard. So I understand that is a concern. I think that limiting the lot size may not be the only answer. I think that it would make more sense to kind of do a comprehensive look at the bulk standards. And if we are going to permit a garage apartment, maybe requiring a greater step back from the side and rear yards than just the 5 or 10 feet for accessory structures currently, maybe also reducing the building coverage or impervious coverage of the lot. So it's not, completely overbuilt. So I think there's a few things we could do to kind of reduce the density without just making garage apartments only permitted on larger lots. There was also, I saw in the workshop, a recommendation to permit garage apartments on corner lots. I think that this is currently not in the zoning ordinance because we don't want the look of two principal structures on one lot. If the lot is large enough to subdivide it, that's, up to the property owner to do if they would like to. But I think, I just wanted to provide my thoughts today. I think there'll certainly be more. And if we want to go forward with drafting any type of ordinance, I think we really need to do like a deep dive into the bulk standards also, besides just area.
Have you come across the use of the accessory structure for affordable?
Yes, so in some of the towns, Jen and I pointing to the TV she's no longer on. In some of the towns, we do affordable housing work. They do there are ordinances that permit or allow for the use of accessory apartments for affordable housing. And typically with the development fee ordinance, you know, that you're hopefully adopting soon, interested applicants, property owners could get, you know, maybe like $10,000 to help build an accessory dwelling unit that then they would have to deed restrict as affordable for a certain number of years. Yeah.
What are the, do you have like a typical length?
Could be 15, it could be 20, it could be 30, usually not more than 30 ever. The most current example I can think, we recently adopted that ordinance in Manasquan, so local to here.
So what you're saying in that instance is that you say, yeah, that's fine, you can build a garage apartment, but you would have to make it affordable housing for like 20 years.
Right.
And then afterwards you could do with it what you want.
That's how most affordable housing is. It's usually 20 or 30 years for, you know, like apartments, or they're deed restricted for a certain number of years. And then after the period of a mortgage, basically, if someone chooses to sell it, if the deed restriction is no longer in place, they can sell it for the market value.
Okay, and then would that, if we went that route, would we run up against any, I don't know, state requirements or anything like that? Because we've already sort of ratcheted down our garage apartments. I can't remember what year it was before your time, but we made it so they can only be 1 bedroom. They can only be, I think it's 800 square feet, something like that. Is that right? Okay. So if we did that, what you're just talking about, would the state come in and say, well, you can't make affordable housing 1 bedrooms because that's discriminating against families? Is there any possibility?
So if you have an accessory dwelling unit apartment ordinance, it would not be to encompass all of your affordable housing. It would, you know, it would go towards a portion of it. So I think that you would be okay with having, you know.
So that wouldn't be the only thing that.
Right, that would not
that
be,
would be one of several.
that would be an option.
Okay. Okay, great. And
I think I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it may not be Manasquan, but I do know that a town or two that has that ordinance like caps the number of accessory apartments. So they, you know, in their spending plan, which Jen talked about, they say that they're putting money aside for, say, the creation of 10 ADUs.
okay.
So it wouldn't be like anyone who wants to could do it.
Okay, great. And then I really appreciate these other suggestions saying this is not the only way to reduce density, that we could be changing setbacks, like making, what you're saying is making bigger setbacks if
Right.
the person wants to do
Yeah, if someone wanted to do, because I mean, I think that especially, you know, in a beach town, right? Everybody, I hear it at the land use board all the time. People like their ocean breezes and people want, you know, to
sun.
sun, right? We all like sun. That's why we live here. So I think we certainly want to be mindful of our neighbors, right? If we are building up, especially on a piece of property that may not be as large.
Okay, and then same thing with the reduced impervious coverage. What you're saying is that maybe as a possibility, the borough might say, okay, yes, you can build a garage apartment, but we're going to ratchet down the amount of impervious coverage overall. So there will be less impervious coverage, but you'll get your two. Okay. So
Right, so instead of a 65% impervious coverage, if you want a garage apartment, maybe you need to meet like 55 or 60 or something. 40.
All right, so those are great suggestions and other ways to get the same thing. I know you didn't have a lot of time, but were you able to go to any properties that are 5,000 square feet that actually have these two structures, accessory structure?
I did not have time to do that. Sorry.
I can't think of a lot. There are some. I actually don't think there are a lot because I don't think it really fits, and most people would say it doesn't fit. there's a couple and it seems crowded to me, so that's.
Right, so that, I think, it could be kind of an instance of, the standards regulating it themselves, or maybe, we could certainly ask the land use board secretary to kind of do a report of the types of variances that have been granted over the past few years and see if people have been getting variances for garage apartments on certain size lots. I can't think of any really small lots that have gotten, but I don't remember every application.
I'm not saying something under 5 is coming,
Right.
trying to do it, but just even at 5,000, it seems cramped. That was the motivation.
Yeah.
This is great, and look forward to whatever you have following up on this.
So, yeah, I mean, so if there are any, standards you're interested in me looking at more closely to see how that would affect things, I could certainly do that.
Well, I just had two quick follow-ups, and they're both clarifications really for me personally. One, Councilman Weber asked a question, and I heard one thing, but then I thought you answered slightly differently, so.
Oh,
But
sorry.
he's satisfied with your answer, so I'm probably going to miss something, but it sounded as if Councilman Weber was saying, if we created an ordinance that restricted accessory dwellings, below 7,500 square feet. It sounded as if he was asking you if in that ordinance, we could require the use of affordable housing, and I would think we could not do that. It wouldn't be a requirement.
I don't
It'd be a
think that's-
homeowner's option.
I don't think that's what he.
No, not as a
Right.
requirement, but I think she was suggesting that, just as a, pertaining to the discussion earlier,
Right,
we could be looking at accessory dwellings. as
right, so.
One way to get to affordable
That's-
housing.
that was my
Typically,
only question.
So Jen talked about the RDP of 4, which is, hopefully there will be 4 units Bradley Beach needs to
Right.
build. And then there is a unmet need, which is another number that I don't know off the top of my head, but it's larger than that Bradley Beach. The state is saying, we understand that you don't have the land to create these units, but we'd like you to try your hardest to meet this as much as possible. So that's where things like the overlay over the business zones would come into play, the mandatory set aside. So if anywhere within the borough, you build 5 units, at least one of them needs to be affordable. Another mechanism, Mayor Fox had asked, that has been done in other towns, is to create, if someone wants to build or deed restrict, an accessory dwelling unit on their property, they could get a certain amount of money to do
I guess
so.
my only question, as it pertains to any change in ordinances that the council might consider, there would be no language in any proposed ordinance that would require a homeowner to
No.
offer affordable housing. So basically, what you're describing as an alternative to improve our status with affordable housing exists today already. I mean, a homeowner today can voluntarily de-restrict their property. Someone who already has.
So this would give them financial incentives to do so.
Okay.
They would get money set aside from the trust fund because all of the money, once Bradley Beach has the trust fund set up, once you're collecting the money from development fees and it's staying in Bradley Beach, you need to put together a plan on how to spend all of that money.
Okay.
And certain percentages need to be allocated to certain things, but if you had, a program like a accessory dwelling unit program, you could say, over the next 10 years, we anticipate $100,000 will go to this program because we're going to give $10,000 to 10 people who want to participate.
Okay. I did have one other question, and that is, your kind of quick reference to the corner lots.
Right.
It sounded like your reaction was negative, that there's a disadvantage to allowing a 7,500 foot corner lot today to have an accessory dwelling. Could you just elaborate?
Yeah, so I think that ordinance was put in place before my time, but it's been, my understanding, I've been told, I've seen at the planning, at the zoning board, now the land use board. That the reason for that ordinance being in place is, Bradley Beach did not want to create a lot that kind of looked like there were two principal structures on the lot, that it seemed like, or there was the potential for it to be subdivided and have two principal structures at some point, on those corner lots. And if you have a 10,000 square foot corner lot and you wanted to build two principal structures on it, you have the square footage to subdivide it and do so. But I think also just kind of from that light air and open space aspect, having the garage apartments on the corner lots impacts that as well. And I think, you know, you've been a member of the land use board. I think most of the time, in most cases, they tend to look negatively on applications for garage apartments on corner lots.
Oh, sure. No, they do.
Yeah.
And plus it kind of flies in the face of any effort to reduce density. But and I don't know if we're talking about 2 or 5 lots in the borough, may not be that many, but I was always curious about why that ordinance existed as it did, that why we did, forget 10,000, maybe you subdivide, but 7,500. If you're a corner lot, you still can't have an accessory dwelling, and I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it, you know, they do have, you know, more space to do it. So if that's something the council says, no, we changed our mind, we want garage apartments on corner lots, we can certainly make that change. But I think it had always been kind of the why it was in place.
You thought it's just the perception that it could be
Right,
perceived as two principal dwellings.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I gotta make sure I understand this, so. Make sure I understand what you just said. So right now, if somebody has a corner lot, it's 10,000 square feet, they can't build a garage apartment without getting a variance. right?
That's correct.
Okay. But if they have 10,000 square feet, they could subdivide their property into 2 properties of 5,000 each, and because our current ordinance says you can build a garage apartment if you have at least 5,000 feet, so then they could build 2 garage apartments.
Just one,
Well,
because
just
one,
because on one still-
one would still be a
But then
corner.
but then we'd end up with 3 structures. I mean, that's way more dense. As opposed to 2, if we just let the 10,000 corner lot, 10,000 square foot corner lot, build a garage apartment without a variance, then we only get 2 structures, whereas.
So I think that might be a
Agree.
case, I think that might be a case where, you know, if that person came to the land use board and said, I want a garage apartment on my 10,000 square foot lot, otherwise I'll subdivide it, and, you know, cut my losses, that might be a particular case, or that can be something I look at further to see how many 10,000 square foot corner lots there are. I don't think there's many.
I'll make
though.
sure I have that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, just a question, someone, yeah.
Hello, Rich Desk at 600 Third Avenue. We have a 100,000 square foot lot.
Okay.
10,000. Whoa.
I made the mistake earlier. Yeah,
10,000 square foot lot. We're on a corner. We don't have any air, sun, or other problems that interfere with anybody else. Because we have the only garage on the intersection of 4 lots. 3 of those not only have garage apartments, but they also have extensions beyond the normal size footprint of a garage. So we have the situation where it'd be nice to have some additional space. And the fact that the age of our garage and the condition is approaching the point where we have to do some major reconstruction on it, that would be a great time to have this additional space. We have no intent of using it as a rental whatsoever. Board of Adjustment, I've been going to their meetings. I believe I've gone to maybe 90% of the meetings for the 9 years that I've been here. I've witnessed people being denied putting a garage apartment on their corner lot. I've also witnessed people given approval. One particular case, very nice presentation, beautiful home, beautiful location. They not only have a huge house, they have a beautiful, huge pool and lots of coverage with pavers. And they had a garage, and they got an approval to have a garage. But I don't know if it's gonna be rental or just additional space. I don't know. Another time I recall somebody wanting to put a rental space on a existing property besides the main property. And the Board of Adjustment said, no, you cannot, absolutely not, it's against ordinances, saying that and the other thing. And they got an okay. You know how they got an okay? Because they promised that they weren't going to use it as a rental property. And I remember other times when people told, no, you can't do that. So where I'm going with that is this. Because the Board of Adjustment and now the Land Use Board, I don't want to take the chance and lose money because I have no idea. Because they don't follow the rules to a T. Apparently, it's like depends who's going, asking them for it. I have suspected that a lot of decisions are based on that, from what I've seen. And I don't want to do that. I think it's very unfair because I see some houses in the town, the back houses are bigger and nicer than the front house. And you're concerned about it looking terrible because you have a second dwelling on the property. I've seen some properties where they have not 2 accessory buildings, but more than that. There's one particular lot that I'm aware of, with 7 rentals on the 3 buildings that they have in a single family residential zone. So there's a lot of things that point up to the fairness of not allowing somebody to have 10,000 square feet property. And let's see what else. Okay, the only thing I did say is we don't have a coverage problem as well. So there's no reason why you should be given fair treatment, needs to be allowed to do that without gambling, going to the Board of Adjustment with a land use board to take a chance. Because I don't know, I'm not connected with anybody, so I don't have that privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the next agenda item, approval of minutes, September 28th, 2022, council business meeting. Do I make a motion to approve? Second.
Mr. Vanel,
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith absent, Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. We'll now go to agenda item number 8, public comments pertaining to the 10-12 agenda items only, 5-minute single limit and single instance to speak per participant. Any questions on the agenda? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. I had a couple questions for Mr. Cannon. Mr. Cannon, for tonight's resolution for the closed session, the amount of time is listed as blank. Do you have a time frame for how long that will be?
Not at this moment, but we'll let you know when we get to that resolution, and it's 2:39.
So at that time, you'll do it. Okay.
And then the clerk will fill it in, I'll sign it.
Great. And then my other question, will there be any business following that session?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so I can go have dinner is really why I'm asking.
That's up to you, but
Okay.
you don't have to hang out with me.
This is going to take place. And I did have a question on the bills list. You can answer that for me.
That's not my department.
Page 3. Isn't that, we're going to take the bills list, we don't get to ask any questions.
I think he's not.
That's your question.
Sure.
Okay, great. There's an item here for Brown and Brown Metro payments for July, August, September, and October, $12.50 a month. What exactly does Brown and Brown Metro Inc. do? Page 3, item 80313.
They're the risk manager for the town.
Yeah, the risk manager.
Oh, okay, the risk manager. So we paid them $12.50 a month. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move into, yes.
Jonathan Black, 414 Monmouth Avenue. I have two questions. One is with regard to ordinance 2022-13 and the littering, the solid waste and recyclables collection. Is there a reason that there's no brush pickup in the summer, in July and August? But that's really when the growing season is, and we don't have to kind of store our brush.
Yeah, my understanding from Public Works, and I don't think anybody's here from Public Works, is that with the increase in people in town and the amount of cars in town, it's difficult for them to get around and pick it up. So we did expand the hours in the yard to 5 days a week. But that's my understanding. That's the reason, that's the rationale.
Okay, yes, it's difficult, certainly. Another question is with regard to the Halloween curfew. Is that standard that ages 17 and under cannot be out after 8 p.m. on Halloween night?
When you say standard, you mean other communities or what we've done in the past or?
Both, I guess. It just seems quite early for a 15-year-old kid.
That's how it's always been since I've been here.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Dark, really. I've seen it dark. It feels 8 o'clock's actually later than I see it in most towns.
So people can be out if they're accompanied by an adult.
Always, yeah. It's just no minors out really after dark is the perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to ordinances. We have an introduction. Ordinance 2022-13. It's an ordinance amending chapter 286, littering, solid waste and recycling collection of the borough's revised general ordinances to extend brush collection through December. The reason that I think Council President Sexsmith brought this forward because I think for the last year or two, we've just done an extension with resolution. We said, why don't we just codify it? So that's the rationale behind this. His observation, which I think is a good one, is it seems like our leaves are on the trees a little bit longer each year, and we're kind of into December when we clean things up. So that's the rationale as I understand it. So I don't know if there's any council comments on it. Questions?
No, I like the fact that we're extending into December, but my question is going to be what Ms. Greenblatt's question was, and Ms. Berry said, and that is that we're missing 2 months, July and August in the summer. And could you just repeat for us? It's because there's too much traffic to.
Yeah, my understanding of what Public Works has told me is that with the amount of cars on the street and an inability to get around, maneuvering, that's been the challenge for them, as I understand it. I mean, I can verify that with them, but that's my understanding. Okay, if there's no other questions, make a motion to introduce ordinance 2022-13.
Second.
Mr. Vanel?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith absent? Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Communications, we have a recreation member appointment for Norman Goldfarb, and that's an amendment to the title resolution 2022-225 on the 9/28 council meeting, business meeting. We missed it by a block. It should have been for Second Avenue.
It's Second Avenue. It was the block, the 200 or 300. It should have been one. It was one, and it should have been the other end. By the way, I messed up. That was my fault. I'm sorry.
Just correct.
Yes, stepping down from recreation.
Nobody.
There was just a vacancy for.
Yeah, and there's actually no limit on recreation members yet. Okay, let's go to resolutions. We have on the consent agenda 3 items: 2022-234, the bill list for October 12th, 2022-235, authorizing 2022 Halloween curfew, 2022-236, approval of escrow deposit refund in the amount of $1,000 for 409 Hammond. And 2022-237, the approval of appointment of a probationary firefighter, Evan J. Frederick, and Evan J. Frederick and Lily M. Lane. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Vanel,
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith absent, Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. 2020, go to individual resolutions, 2022-238 is authorizing advertisement for the solicitation of bids for the improvements to Park Place Avenue Phase 1 and award of professional services. I'll make a motion to approve 2022-238.
Second.
Mr. Vanel.
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith absent, Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. There are no announcements that I'm aware of, so we'll go to mayor and council reports. We'll start with Councilman Brunel.
Okay. First aid report. For the operational period ending October 12th, 2022, the squad responded to 13 day calls and 9 night calls for a total of 22 calls. 16 were for medical, 7 were for fire calls. The squad provided medical coverage for the ovarian cancer walk, brain injury alliance 5K. The squad also participated and displayed at the Monmouth County Volunteer Community Fair and Family Day at Joe Polite Park. There were no out-of-town mutual requests. The squad conducted 1 driver's training drill for the safety and education of the membership. The squad requested no mutual aid for the operational period and fulfilled 100% of their requirements and assignments. The fire department, for the same operational period, responded to 7 requests for the department. The department would like to thank all who attended the fish fry in support of the department and hope to see you all at the next one. The department also participated in and displayed at the Monmouth County Volunteer Community Fair and Family at Joe Platt Park. The department conducted a drill for the safety and education of the membership and on the placement and operation of large diameter hose lines. The department would like to welcome, upon the approval of the council, our newest probationary member, Miss Lily M. Lane and Mr. Evan F. Frederick. They both will enroll in the spring class firefighter 1 at Monmouth County Fire Academy. They're not out of town. There were no out-of-town mutual aid requests for the department and no mutual aid requests for the operational period. They fulfilled 100% of their requirements. The other thing I have tonight is I've had a fair number of people asking me about what's going on at the church on Lynn. So I went over and took a look at that on Sunday. There were a couple things that were kind of disturbing to me, actually. The first one is we put up a fence, which I'm assuming was for security, but provides absolutely no security whatsoever to the property. The second thing I noticed was there was a scaffold which is so far out of OSHA compliance, I can't even count the ways. But the thing that actually really caught my attention is what they're doing over there is they are replastering the exterior of the gymnasium wall. The plan for this building, whether we sell it or whether it gets rehabbed at the desire of the public through the referendum that we have. Either way, we're tearing down the entire gymnasium to the foundation. If we keep it, we're rebuilding it. So why the hell are we replastering the exterior of those walls? And I'll let you guys make your own conclusion. That's the end of my report.
I guess I have a question. Have you posed those questions to the business administrator?
I'm posing them to you. You signed the contract.
Yeah, we all approved the contract.
And I asked, no, I didn't, actually. Matter of fact, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't, that's correct. Yeah.
And I asked for the scopes of work. I never got them. And if I had gotten the scope of work and discovered through reading it that we were going to replaster walls, we were gonna be torn down and rebuilt or never rebuilt, I definitely would have said something.
Okay,
So that's kind of screwy. Just my opinion.
I'll certainly pass that along to the business administrator. Thank you.
You don't need to. You're the guy in charge.
No, I'll pass it along to the business administrator. Thank you. Could I? Councilman Tyson?
Yes, my report will be very brief tonight. I saw Anthony DeMeo pop his head in the room, but he's not here now, correct? Anthony, are you out there? Okay. Anthony is the chair of the Fletcher Lake Commission. I am the liaison to the Fletcher Lake Commission. And he asked me to read a statement. When he showed up, I thought perhaps he wanted to read it himself, but at the Fletcher Lake Commission meeting last month, they're actually meeting tonight again. And then through some processes that followed, he wanted me to read, with respect to the Fletcher Lake benches, the benches were removed from the Memorial Park without notifying the Fletcher Lake Commission. The benches, I'm sorry, the mayor and the BA agreed to replace them upon meeting with Linda Henderson of Ocean Grove and Anthony DeMeo of Bradley Beach. Anthony DeMeo did research on the names of the owners of the benches and will submit them in letter to the mayor so they can be replaced before May 2023. And the Fletcher Lake Commission voted and approved this action. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Weber.
Okay, just a point of logistics. There have been a number of people standing in the back of the room. There's nobody right now because they found a seat, but I don't know, like the chairs are disappearing or something, but just, you know, there's chairs in front. I feel like there's fewer chairs there than there's ever been before. So, you know, maybe we can bring a couple chairs back because people have been coming and standing in the back for most of the meeting. I would like to congratulate Captain Zula on his retirement, even in absentia, I guess, again, and congratulate him, and certainly worthy of the proclamation that we gave him today, and congratulate those probationary firefighters, Evan and Lily. So congratulations to those folks. Haven't talked about it in a while, but we have discussed this year energy aggregation, and our energy consultant said they're going to auction on November 15th, and that's to see if they can find an energy supplier that will provide Bradley Beach residents with energy for less money than you're paying now, and for a little bit more renewable energy in the mix. They've said previously the market's not great, so we aren't getting our hopes up, but we're going to auction on November 15th. So just letting you know. The Bradley Beach Environmental Commission has been really busy documenting a lot of things that they've done this year. For the purposes of getting certified again as a sustainable Jersey town. This will be the third time that we get certified as a sustainable Jersey town. They're all working on this, but I know Meredith DeMarco is working especially hard, the chair of the Environmental Commission. So we'll probably know before the end of the year if we're going to get certified as a sustainable Jersey town. And they also came up in their last meeting. They'd like to do a little bit more education on the maritime forest, which is up in the the northeast corner of town. I noticed that the town used to have a video about building the maritime forest on the website that has disappeared. We're maybe make an effort to get that back, but and some additional education for people about our maritime forest, because it's unique. It's somewhat unique. There's only a few left in New Jersey, and we're probably the only town that rebuilt one where it had been destroyed. And the Shade Tree Commission had a great, I want to congratulate everybody on Shade Tree. They had a great tree planting on Saturday. I think it was again 28 trees, something like that. Obviously a bunch of volunteers. There was a great demonstration in the park between, I guess, the third. Is it the second or third act? No, it's the third act park. Yeah, it was great. It was a great day. A lot of volunteers. And again, what continues to be the limiting factor on these tree planting that was the third one we've done townwide. It's really the number of volunteers. We can always get more trees, and there's more money for more trees, and I think there's people that want them. So I'm continuing to talk to people about, hey, do you want a tree? We have this program called Wishing Tree, and as a reminder from that tree survey that was done earlier, there's over 1,000, well, now it's 1,000 minus 28, but tree vacancies. So there are that many spaces in town where we could put a tree. So ask your neighbor, see if they want a tree, and send them to that wishing tree program. It's free. You just have to agree to maintain the tree for the rest of your life, or his life, or something. And then the fish bar was great. I got smart. I got there early and actually got a seat this time, so that was just a great event. Enjoyed talking to people and seeing people and eating some fried fish. And that is the extent of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll add on to the shade tree comment. One of the things that happened this past month is we had approved a Newark Avenue beautification project last year where we straightened out the curb, fixed the planting strip, and we completed, I call it the end of the beginning of that. We added 8 trees to the 500 block, the south 500 block of Newark Avenue. I have kind of the before and after pictures, and it's a startling difference. And I think in the next few years, we'll really see a nice result there once the trees kind of fill in. So we're happy to get that done. We are going to have we just got confirmation on this afternoon. I've already talked to the senior club about this, but we have on Friday, October 21st, and we'll advertise this, but we're going to have a flu shot and Omicron booster clinic at the recreation center. It's a Friday. It'll probably be a couple of hours once we get finalized on times, but it's probably going to be in the afternoon of the 21st. So we're going to encourage everybody to certainly get their flu shot. And the COVID boosters, I saw a statistic the other day that only 4% of the population has received that shot. So you certainly can get that shot if you choose to do so at that clinic. So I encourage you all to do that for those who want to do that. We have, as Councilman Weber and I think Manel said, the fish fry was a big success. It's a great community event. I wish we could talk them into doing it more than a couple times a year, but it's a pretty big endeavor on their part. At the end of the night, they're all worn out, and I can understand why they do a great job. This Sunday, we have a Mayor's Wellness Walk at noon. We try to get it in before football starts at 1. Lots of fun prizes. We're gonna have some overall exercise and fellowship along the promenade. So I'd invite people, if they're interested, to go to that. Council President Sexsmith asked me to cover the police report. And that is that we don't really have anything significant to report since last meeting. However, we do want everyone to know that this coming Saturday, October 15th, Chief Guida will be hosting a meet and greet at the Perfect Perk, which is located at 300 Main Street. I think it's everybody knows what the Perfect Perk is. And I think it's 11:30 to 2. You can meet and interact with the public, ask questions, and just generally get to know each other better. Coffee and light refreshments will be there courtesy of the chief. So certainly encourage people to go to that. And that is the end of my report. And we will now go to public comments, 5-minute limit, single instance per participant. Yes. Yes. What's that?
I saw someone else's name. I have 5 things. I originally had 1, but.
The first thing you have is your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Judy Nolan, 4th Avenue. So just to read through them. First thing is, I know that probably this time, if I'm not too late to suggest this, there's a calendar that comes out every year, and it has all of the various meetings, including this meeting, listed on it. They're also on the website too, but I think it would be a good service to have which ones are public meetings versus which ones aren't public meetings, unless they're all public meetings that I see on that calendar. So it's a little confusing, maybe to newer residents in this town that are not familiar with the calendar. Number 2, I just heard about, and I didn't get to do my homework on this, but I just heard about a grant that was awarded to the town for one of our parks to be refurbished. I think it's down at Fletcher Lake. not certain. But I know that the residents were notified about it and also invited to a meeting that just happened recently. And I would think that when a grant is given, that there's matching money that the town has to provide, which is taxpayers' money, and it's all the taxpayers. So why wouldn't all of the town be notified about the grant and the meeting itself? I'm going to continue. The other thing is, I was curious about the public referendum for the church, which comes up in every meeting. Doesn't that referendum decide what's going to happen with the church, meaning that the councilmen aren't the ones that are making that decision? So whether it's the gentlemen that are up there, or there's new council people that come into play after the election, isn't it the referendum that's going to determine that? And then the other thing was, everybody's talking about the roads and how they're not, but they've been a mess since the sewer project started. Aren't they going to get fixed anyway, regardless of who the councilmen now are? Pre-post election, it's already determined that the roads will get repaved, including sinkholes. So I was just confused by that from some recent information I had. Last, and this I have to read. I have a great concern about the letter I received from Mayor Fox. It states that you, as our leader, are not able to work with current councilmen. You are publicly endorsing certain candidates, but what if they don't win? Will you be able to do your job? Successful organizations are all about diversity in people's backgrounds and ideas. I think all of us know that, come out of organizations, myself personally, and who's retired, including the mayor. So I'm concerned that Bradley Beach will fail either way, given the tone of the letter and also what's being asked of the letter with the endorsements of certain candidates. And I don't think we'll be five
Okay,
minutes.
thank you. But before you go, can I ask a question?
Yes,
So on the calendar, can you give me an example of what kind of meeting are you talking about? Because I just want to clarify that. you're
yeah, if
talking-
you look at I look at the calendar when I get it in December or January, whenever it comes. And I literally put on my own personal calendar things that I might be interested in, whether it be the mayor's walk or this meeting. But it's not always, it's never noted whether it's a public meeting or not. So it just says councilman meeting. A layperson, and I am one of them too, when I first got it years ago when I moved here, I didn't know, am I allowed to go to that, or is it just a councilman's meeting? So other things like the tree.
Okay, so the reason I asked is
Yeah.
that, so all the commissions, Shade Tree Commission, Environmental Commission, name, whatever,
Are they
Fletcher
all
Lake,
public?
Sylvan Lake, they're all public.
Okay.
And I just want you to know that because it's your government and you have the right to go to that, even if they're Zoom, there should be a way to find out the Zoom and
Okay,
just.
and that just might be me not knowing, but I don't know if it says it in the calendar or on the website, because when does the work get done? I would think behind closed doors as a committee or whatever.
Well, actually, no, like that's a great point. That's why I'm like making you stay up there longer. Because, for example, in the case of the Shade Tree Commission, it's nothing's done behind closed doors. They're getting applications. People are like, I want to cut a tree down, or I want to put. They deliver, if they have to deliberate and vote on it, they do that in public. If no one from the public is there, it's still available. They
Still
could have been there.
working
So
session.
I would say maybe everything on that calendar is a public meeting. Like I'm struggling to think of what wouldn't be a public meeting. The land use board, it's a public meeting,
Okay.
all these council meetings. are
Again,
public.
just a suggestion
Yeah,
to
yeah.
let it be known, because one of my neighbors don't even, they
But
think,
I
oh,
want you
it's
to
just a private
I want you to
meeting.
put them all on your calendar, all. Your government.
Obviously, I'd like to participate.
Ms. Mullin, there's,
But if anybody has anything else to address for my questions.
I've got one
Okay.
quick one to address,
Yeah.
because it's an obvious answer. Your question about the referendum.
Yes,
It is non-binding, so a
Okay.
lot of people have confusion about this. The public votes, but it's non-binding in that it doesn't decide anything. It just informs the council what the public wants.
okay,
But then it's up to the council, who's ever sitting here at that time, to vote. And, some council members are going to say, in fact, you heard Councilman Bonell say this earlier today. He's gonna vote the way the public votes. I've said that publicly, others have said that publicly. So you just have to understand,
Okay.
ultimately, it is a vote by the council, but. different
thanks for
council members-
clarifying, but work that's being done on it now that Councilman Bonell said, I don't know who makes that decision. I would think it's the folks at the front of the room, including the mayor. Yeah, so
It's
why
not.
are we being told to go to the administrator? to
That
ask
decision was
questions?
not made by the council.
Well, the mayor then, I just,
I'm sorry.
I couldn't understand why that wasn't
It
answered.
was voted on by the council. I'm sorry, Councilman. You voted no, but it was voted on by the council
To
to do
to
that.
refurbish a gymnasium that's going to
No, no, no,
be.
no, no, no.
Put
Make
some
it-
down,
make
put
it-
slabs for it, whatever.
Just- no, no.
And money,
No, no. Just-
money spent.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes.
You want to spend time on it?
Real cool at Monmouth Avenue. Yes, she kind of helped clarify things. I just want to understand, does the public fully understand that on this non-binding referendum on the church that, for example, if the majority of the public voted no, that the council could still overrule their vote?
Yeah, that's what he just said.
Why are we voting for it then?
You have to ask the state that.
Okay.
Greg explained it once before what the difference is between the two. There's certain things that are binding, and if they don't fall under those requirements, it just automatically reverts to a non-binding, which makes no sense to me either.
No, I was surprised, Mayor,
I don't
when
get
we
it.
were walking with your candidate, and he told me that, and I said, geez, I said, could people, so say again, if they don't want the church, that they could be overruled, and I don't know if all of the public realize this.
I don't
Whether
think they
they
do.
change anything or not. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
Donna Greenblatt, 414 Monmouth Avenue. I have a fair comment. My household received a letter this weekend that was paid for by Larry Fox for mayor. There was no mayoral election this year, but the mayor has taken upon himself to weigh in on his candidate's choice for council and make serious accusations against those who he wants to lose this election. Most residents of Bradley Beach are not attending council meetings. Many, like in any town, do not get involved in the details. And so a letter from their mayor that so clearly attacks some and supports others and supports others can have a significant impact, which is obviously what Mayor Fox is trying to achieve. We are now in a battle of who said what, who has the best intentions, and who is looking out for the residents in the fairest way. And since I do not know all the details of all these disputed issues and don't have access to the same information as the mayor, council, and borough employees, I must judge based on my own personal experience with all parties, because I do know those details. Initially, when the mayor ran, I was right there supporting his candidacy until I was not, having understood that our perspective on stewardship, development, and strategy did not align. Mr. Fox won the election, and I continue to volunteer my time and energy, including as vice chair of the Shade Tree Commission. Well-meaning people can disagree or should be able to disagree respectfully and still work together towards a common goal. As a commission, Shade Tree required collaboration with the municipality. And while there were many who were forthcoming and supportive, there were also several municipal employees who were not so cooperative, present company excluded. It was at this point where we needed impartial leadership to move forward that things got dicey. I had to approach the mayor to please deal with these issues. He told me he was letting things simmer before he called me to discuss. When we finally met, he had already conducted his own investigation by speaking solely to his borough employees for his perspective. He was not interested in truly hearing another opinion or side from a resident, no less. At the same time, I came to odds with the mayor on concerns of overdevelopment and found his response repeatedly in favor of the overdevelopment. After getting the grant for the tree inventory approved, I proceeded to officially resign. Time and again, since my departure as volunteer, I see others now dealing with the same behavior from this mayor. He has been consistent. I have also worked with the three councilmen in question, and they have also been consistent. The mayor argues that these councilmen impede progress. We see policy decisions made without council's knowledge. What he sees is some council, quote, refusing to work with him or his administration. I see an interest on the part of council to get it right, to do it right, and to stand by principle and not just ego. I know from my experiences with these three elected officials, and so I have to support Mr. Weber, Vanella, and Gubitosi for their efforts to represent the residents. And I sadly conclude that the mayor doesn't want true debating or questioning. He seems to have an agenda that has turned many folks skeptical. Last example, the Lorraine Church property tipping the scale on a no vote for the referendum by assigning a costly $10 million rehab and sending out a community survey to garner negativity toward preserving this historical structure. Even today, I see on social media this hot button used by Fox's preferred candidates to disparage their opposition. Let me state here unequivocally, no, the incumbent council is not in favor of spending $10 million of our tax dollars. So this letter is really problematic and unfair. He's disparaging three councilmen while he's addressing the community at large as mayor. For those who pay no attention to borough business, and I suggest there are many who are happily living out their lives here in Bradley Beach and have no idea of the molten lava that characterizes this election season, as well as the enormous discord that we see here, this letter comes across as a straightforward case of a leader who is genuine in his intention and has had to fight tooth and nail every step of the way to serve our community. I say that for those of us who have actually lived it, this is not true, and I support Councilmen Vanel, Gubitosi, and Weber, and Jane DeNoble as a fresh voice to drive the council and borough forward in a positive way, which is what we residents of Bradley Beach deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Look at you.
I'm sorry.
Linda Duffy, 312 Brindley Avenue. I just want a yes or no answer to this. Was the structure behind the Lorraine project, meaning the gym, was it tested for lead and asbestos before it was being demolished? I'd like to know the answer right now, please.
Yes.
And it was negative.
Not all of it.
Well, there was debris flying all over. Where Mr. Weber lives, right in line of all the debris flying all over the place. It's all in the dirt. So what are we doing about that? They weren't wearing masks when they were scraping it away.
Plaster's not hot.
There was
I read the
stucco
report.
under that plaster, and stucco can contain asbestos.
They tested it.
I read the reports.
And it's negative.
It's mayor.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
The only asbestos was in that building, was like.
Was
the big
inside?
Pipes, right? It was like.
No, the plaster
Oh,
on the inside. probably had asbestos.
It was,
Because it's so old.
it was window sealant, pipe
I
insulation.
was just worried about all of us living in the area and all the debris flying all
What
over.
they're doing is not, it's not.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I wanted to know.
Terrace, right, 406 Madison Avenue. I would just like to comment very briefly that Ms. Greenblatt's letter that she just read, I totally disagree. I think the three incumbents she's talking about have been very divisive as councilmen. I've been here 23 years. We've had mayors, we've had councilmen, councilwomen come and go. This has been the most divisive we've had. And 2 weeks ago at the meeting, that was a great example of how bad it was. So I don't think Mr. Fox has anything in mind except for improving the town. And I think the three incumbents that she is endorsing, they're not getting my vote because I'm voting for Tom Gavin, Ms. Brunel, Tim Sexsmith, and Mr. Marco. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, the vote.
Nancy Meadow, those are our condominiums. I wanted to continue with when I ran out of time at the last meeting regarding information that's withheld. However, prior to that, I have some observations that I believe I'd like to have on the record. The first of which is the previous meeting. Well, it's been past practice that resolutions are read by the mayor, as they were even this evening. At the last meeting, there were 10 on the agenda. One was not read by the mayor,
and it was delegated to a borough employee who with grace and dignity read it. The other side of it is that it wasn't read by someone. So that says a lot. For years, I used to say that the government should be my partner, not my enemy. It's no longer that the government is my enemy. The government, most of it is my partner. The administration is my enemy, and it is sickening. And another comment that was made at the meeting was that the mayor is embarrassed when he meets with his counterparts over how many employees we've been through. Well, I look at it another way. First of all, I'm sure my embarrassment, well, his embarrassment pales to mine. And I look at what works here. What are the new hires here? We spent thousands of dollars on an employee handbook and job descriptions. And every time I ask them, who does this, what is this? I get no answers. We have 3 new department heads since July 2021. And interestingly, they all got new offices. Now, I can't sit, I wonder, was that a quid pro quo for them to work here? Or did they take a job and then were unhappy with their conditions? All of that and their regard for us residents shows me what this administration thinks. And that comes into the campaign too, which is everything about the employees. Well, you know what? It's not about the employees. It's about we the people. It's just, I don't know how we will ever heal. We've always had 2 Bradley Beaches divided by Brindley. Well, now we're divided by personal issues. It is sad and disgraceful. And now I will continue with whatever seconds I have left with information that I'm still waiting to hear about. And I could even start with, I want to figure out the volunteer applications on the website, only to be told now, well, to read now, it's called a senior leadership forum. I thought we were giving an award out for like Citizen of the Month. How that translated to the volunteer thing, I have no idea, but another way confusing, let's hide things from the public. I had to learn that there's secret conversations going on regarding a dog park. I don't know why that's secret. Again, information being withheld, such as why does the police department need $38,000 for a truck? And more importantly, why is it that the people on Zoom have not been told who is in this chamber tonight representing some part of the government? It is so disrespectful to those people. And quite honestly, perhaps you could avoid me and I could stay home if I had that information. How many times did that? What is the problem with telling people who is in here? It's not my job. And I mean, you representatives from different departments. Wouldn't it be nice to, information is helpful. And it's a slap in the face to them. I don't know where certain government property disappears to. It's not on the, gee, we're getting rid of it list. And that's a whole other issue, along with also, you know, it was stated that we finally started an internship program. And it was looked at like, I should be happy. What wasn't said was that this is a paid internship program. And people are being paid to file. Did I finish my sentence? Thank you. And that's a different program than I suggested. And that's fine. I wanted one where your resume was basically going to be your payment. I don't mind a different program, but why was that information withheld from the public? Thank you very much. And I'm sure that we will continue this conversation next time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 3rd Avenue. Mayor, thank you for your comments about the Shade Tree Commission. And I'm just a little disturbed about the Newark Avenue beautification project, because I don't understand why the Shade Tree Commission couldn't have worked in conjunction with Public Works on those 8 trees. When I inspected those trees, there were no markouts for water, gas, or sewer. Okay, the Shade Tree Commission made 28 phone calls to 1-800 markout for every single tree that they installed.
It was markouts that were done.
The markouts weren't there, so I inspected the
I
job.
witnessed them being marked
Oh, you
out.
did, okay,
Yeah.
just we see things differently.
Yeah.
The public hearing on Lake Terrace Park, and I'd love to hear your comments on this one. I read the public notice on page 36 of the October 6th coaster. And I struggled to get to that meeting. The public notice said 6 to 8. I got to the meeting at 7:45. The door was locked. I knocked on the door and I sent an email to Ms. Humphrey who said, oh, everyone left at 7:30. Well, a public notice is a public notice. 6 to 8. Please give the public the courtesy of being there from 6 to 8, as your public notice stated. It was very disturbing. I struggled to get there, as I do every meeting. Is there any reason why that happened there?
Meeting got over early. I happened to be here doing a download after the meeting. The meeting was held, it was productive, and it was really for the people around that park who we wanted to make sure they understood the renovations that were being taken.
Mayor, it's not really for the people around the park. That's why it's called a public notice. It's not a block notice.
We gave a public notice so that the council could attend and there wouldn't be a quorum issue.
No, it's required to have a public notice, sir. That's
We
why,
did
that's
do a
why
public
it's there.
notice. We did do a public notice.
Listen,
Yeah.
Mayor,
Thank you.
it's no. It's a public notice for a reason. I'm a resident. It's 0.6 of a square mile. Every block is in my neighborhood. Okay? If it was in Howell Township where there's, 40 square miles and it's in my 0.6 of a square mile, it's in my neighborhood. Okay, so it was rude what you just said. I was entitled to go to the meeting and I was barred from it because the door was locked at 7:45. And Ms. Humphrey admitted that they left at 7:30. And I have a question for Mr. Cannon. Mr. Cannon, in terms of your comments last week about Mr. Gavin's legitimacy to be a candidate, you said there were 12 residents that called up on this very issue. That's your quote, it's in the notes.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, great. And you stated that there was a time limit on filing the appeal to the clerk's approval of the candidate, correct?
No, I don't, what are you getting?
That's what you said. What am I getting at? I just want to say that Mr. Gavin did not reside here. He resided in Belmont. That's been proven. That's not even a question. He did not reside in this town for a year. That is one of the criteria points. Okay. Now, yes, based on what you said, we had time limits to appeal. It would have been in order to show cause in a very compressed amount of time, correct?
Yeah, and there's a special election judge that hears it on an emergent
Sure.
basis.
I just want to say for the public and for your
Sorry.
benefit, that the requirement of the attorney to file the order to show cause was a $10,000 retainer. So there's a reason that people did not file, Mr. Kennedy. Do you understand that? I mean, you said to the woman who came up here, you had a chance to file. Well, I'm just clarifying. The reason it wasn't done, because it's $10,000. Bad government costs residents a lot of money, both in taxes and.
I don't agree with that. It's bad government.
Yeah,
So there's a legal procedure.
Sure.
The clerk makes the determination and then it can be challenged in court, right? You do it all the time. You bring lawsuits. I think there's been 4 lawsuits by you.
sure.
Why didn't you sue on Mr. Gavin's?
This would be because of the compressed time, it was very, very expensive, I spent enough.
Oh, I mean, if you want to challenge people's rights to be on the ballot, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, that's how it is, but just for the public to know.
That is what it is.
Yeah, it
Right.
costs money to challenge it. I just want to, everyone says, oh, you won money from the town. It
But
costs.
shouldn't that be the way it should be though? Shouldn't the presumption be in fact, doesn't all the case law say that, and basically the principles of the republic say that access to the ballot is paramount? So shouldn't the burden of proof be on people to keep people off the ballot if they meet the indicia criteria? Because I mean, that's the way the whole law is set up. And you're trying to pretend that me or the clerk did something wrong here and cost people money. But really, you're an objector to someone's other constitutional right to be a candidate, right? And you're complaining how much it costs to deny them that. I mean, I don't think that's the way the system is set up, because that's the way it's supposed to work. Not people call up and deny other people their rights without having due process.
Mr. Kennedy, it's very clear, and the clerk didn't really do the research, that he did not reside here, which is part of.
But
the
there's,
affidavit.
you're skipping over
No.
you're skipping over the entire legal procedure that occurred here and with the Board of Elections to make some sort of point that the government here did something wrong, but the government here did nothing wrong. If you bring a lawsuit here, if the burden is so high, then why do you sue us all the time? And now you're complaining that it's too hard to sue? That's ridiculous.
What I'm saying is.
To attack the clerk like she did something wrong in this circumstance
What I'm
is
saying
ridiculous to make some sort of point. That's ridiculous.
You said to the person who was up here last
There's
time,
3 pending lawsuits against the town by you right now, isn't there?
no, there's just one now. Yeah.
Oh, there's only one right now. There you go, there's only one.
You settled the other.
So isn't it true that it's really not that hard to bring a lawsuit against the town, Mr. Cohen, because you do it all the time?
It's very expensive for the residents and and a lot of people don't want to do it. I don't mind doing it, but I had to draw the line this time, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm
Thank you
glad
very much.
you have a line.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Hi there, Mike Flynn, 600 Fourth Ave. Just a question in general about the bill lists. Nothing in specific about the bill list at all. But has there ever been a denial of payment on a bill list?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen many meetings, and the only time I remember any objection was Timothy Sexsmith saying about a cleaning of the car when we already had the equipment, but everything's always been passed from the meetings I've seen online. Just in general, just a question, can we have a requisition approval, a purchase requisition approval instead of a bill list? Because a lot of times the vendors already done their work and the toothpaste is essentially out of it.
No, we don't. We have a purchase requisition system that it's a problem if you buy something without a requisition. That's part of our procedure. We clean that up this year. So if you do it after the fact purchase rec, it's not a good thing.
And I'm not saying that there's an issue with purchase requisition, but should we get the council approve purchase requisition instead of approving the bill in case there's an issue where there is a council person or saying that, hey, I don't want to pay this because we shouldn't have, we shouldn't be doing this.
You'd really, that would be, I mean, we can have you have a conversation with our business administrator, but that would procedurally, that just wouldn't work. We couldn't get anything done.
There are underlying requisitions though.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there is,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I'm just saying, if there's any time that there's a council person objecting to paying the bill and the vendor's done the work, the toothpaste is already out, the tube essentially.
Yeah.
And
But many of the purchases, the bigger purchases are already approved through a resolution or an ordinance. So,
just excellent.
yeah, okay, no.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes.
Julian Titus, 605 North Avenue. I'd like to know, it's like every meeting we're coming to, there's less and less seats here. Can you please give us an explanation as to why this is occurring?
I can.
You are the mayor.
Okay.
Well, because I mean, honestly,
I can certainly ask the question, but
I would like
there's
to know.
no, there's no systemic plan to reduce seats. It may be that I know
The
that
last
I
meeting
know
there
that
were less
the-
people, this
you
meeting
want me
there
to-
were less people,
want me to answer the question.
and well, I'm still asking, and it's just like, why are we doing this? Because it's almost like, are we tempering? Freedom of speech, do we not want people here?
Come on.
I think it was more of an ADA.
I was going to make the comment, the code has done a inventory of all buildings and rooms, and they're in the process of doing that. I don't know if I can ask that question.
There was a question on ADA requirements
Yeah.
and allowing somebody to be able to get up through
Okay.
through the
So then can we put out a communication that there's less seats here as well then? Because honestly, perception, we're in a very volatile.
Well, I
A
think
very
we're, I think
volatile
we're in,
election
I think we're within the confines of the fire.
And you know what? And if that's the case, completely understandable, but it's just like we're coming in and it's less seats last week, less seats this week.
I don't think. there's-
Yeah, there are less seats this week.
No, as I was gonna say, I don't think we've been chipping away at seats every week. I don't think
Well,
that's the case.
as I said again, we are in a very tempers are flaring, as we can see tonight, Mr. Cannon. I know you're a little heated, everybody's a little heated. And, you know, everyone's, you know, saying who they're voting for, sir, that, you know, letter you sent out to certain people in town wasn't helpful either.
Yeah,
So people look at it as to, are you trying to suppress voices?
yeah.
So
Well,
that
you know,
comes into
and
play.
you know what also causes divisiveness is aspersions like that. So
No, it doesn't. I'm just voicing because we had many, but I mean, there used to be, you could have like 50 people in here. Now, if you did do that and just communicate it.
no, I just did. No, there's no grand plan to reduce seats in this room.
Okay, well,
Julie, it's like the movies. The seats are wider and they're more comfortable.
we're gonna have lounges, we're gonna have lounges and cocktail service too. So thank you.
That'd be nice. Okay, thank you. If there's nobody else, we'll. oh.
I'm Nina Matasio, from McCabe. I just wanted to bring back again the topic of 217 McCabe, which I know is under litigation and a lot cannot be discussed, but myself and my neighbors continue to wonder why the debris, the dumpster, and a lot of the debris that is beyond the property continues to be there week after week, month after month, year after year, in some cases. So just wanted to bring that up again. And I know, I think the land use had a executive session on it, and I know we have it. There's an executive session tonight on it. So I just look forward to more information that can be shared on that property in the future. Although it looks great for Halloween.
We have a planner here, we have a borough, an engineer in the back, maybe they know the answer. How long can you leave a dumpster in the street? Like if the work's done, how long can they leave the dumpster?
It's in your codes. Every town's a little bit different, but it's usually no more than a week. So.
Okay, so-
Yeah, so that's a code enforcement issue.
No, I understand, but I figured you might know, and thank you for that, because based on Mr. Tasio, like the dumpster's been there for at least 2 weeks and then.
Yes, it's 2 weeks and then they have to go for renewal.
Not that.
Thanks.
Okay. Like anybody else, we will,
Is there anybody on Zoom?
no, I looked, I didn't see any hands.
Yep, there is.
Oh, there is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wasn't-
Hi, Jane.
Hey, how's it going? Good evening,
Good.
Jane DeNoble, 612 3rd Avenue. I'm sorry I'm not in there in person. Unfortunately, I was exposed to COVID at the tree planting and I didn't feel well today, so I didn't want to come in and expose anybody else. But I just want to add one thing. The Honor Me trees, they actually paid for all the trees we planted. What they do is they sponsor a tree and that pays for all the other trees. They put a little medallion on there and it was really special. It was a wonderful day. And I also want to talk about the nursery we used is great. We now get trees at wholesale, and I know Mayor Fox used the same nursery for his planting on Newark Avenue. So I'm so happy to be part of this and to be part of saving the town money and a self-sustaining program. And thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Somebody else, right?
I don't see anybody else.
Let's see other hands. Okay, make a motion then to move into, to close the regular section and go into the executive session. Second. My question, second.
Mr. Bennell,
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose,
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith absent, Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we, Mayor, well, what I think we're doing both these agenda items on here, the
I
employee.
think the other, because we're missing Councilman Saxon.
Okay, so we're only gonna do the one. Okay, now let's say it's 20 minutes.
Nice,
For
thank
Mr.
you.
Cohen's benefit, 20-minute executive session, no action after.
Thank you very much.
I think a motion should be made on the 17th. Bringing the award. What is smoking house?
It's time of the year. I think we were here a while ago when I first got here. You've been smart enough to stay away for a while. Was it within the last 48 hours?
Yeah,
Definitely not.
okay. So I just had.
I don't know if it's on or not.
No.
It's supposed to turn red. Is this power? I don't know.
Either.